Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. One thing that I'm starting to realise more and more as I get older is that nothing really comes after corporate life. Nothing really comes after the 9 to 5 job. It's really quite interesting because up to this point in my life, I've been told that the 9 to 5 is a thing to aspire to, as have basically most people. You go to school, you get a degree, and eventually you'll end up with a well-paying job. Now this may be the case, and to a lot of people that will make them happy. You know, most people, and I really do believe this is the case, maybe I'm wrong, but I really think most people are happy and actually probably prefer being told what to do. They like the thought of a 9 to 5 job, they like the stability, and they like the fact that essentially outside of work they don't have to think about building an income. One thing that I'm starting to realise though is, this idea of the 9 to 5, this dream, it really is the end goal. You see, up until this point, there's been something to work towards, be it academically, be it, income-wise. But you get into the 9 to 5, and again, you've got that income increase of perhaps a promotion, perhaps moving to a different company. But besides that, that's what it is. You know, it's a 9 to 5, and it's a 9 to 5 forever. Now, again, to some people that's fine. However, I'm starting to notice this trend and noticing how this is such a limited thing for many people. Because the thing about most people, like I just said, is they won't really improve or change unless they are pushed to. And I think that's why most people really do start to stagnate around the age of about 25, because they can, they've got enough money coming in, they don't really have to worry about anything. However, to a lot of people, a lot of other people out there, they want something different. And that's kind of what I'm speaking about today. Now, I think even a lot of people who do want a 9 to 5 job don't necessarily fully realise this, because a lot of people seem to have this idea that, one day, and the amount of times I hear that, it's crazy. People who genuinely seem to think, one day when my cards come in, things don't happen unless you want them to. And I don't mean the thought of manifesting in the sense of you just say it so it's going to come true. I mean the sense of you need to make steps actively towards stuff. Unless you do, that stuff doesn't change. And that ties into this topic, because most people think that something does come after the 9 to 5. But another thing that you realise is not only does it essentially limit you and keep you in one spot, it also is not as significant as most people think. When you step outside of that building, irrespective of what position you are in the company, no one knows who you are. You're not significant on the world stage, and that doesn't matter to most people. I would argue that that doesn't really even matter to me. But it's something else to think about. Then you think about what comes after it. Because again, the idea is that you're working towards a retirement. But whilst that may have been the case a couple of years ago, or even a couple of decades ago, how likely is it in today's market? You need to have X amount of years, possibly even decades worth of income saved up for retirement, so people who aren't investing or actively building a business on the side, they're not going to have the money to retire most likely. The cost of living is that high, most people can't put money away, they can't put money into pensions or other things that they need to retire. So that is more a dream than a reality, right? More an unfeasible dream than an actual reality. So then you've really got to ask, what is the end goal of the 9 to 5? And I don't know, guys, I can't see anything else that comes after it. You can't retire, you'll never be rich from it, and you may not even have enough money to really have the sort of life that you want. Because again, are you going to be able to stack away 10 years worth of savings? And are you going to be able to protect that against inflation, which is a real concern? In prior generations there was this perhaps offset that you could make of releasing equity from your house or stuff like that. How many people in our generation are going to be able to own a house, or are going to own a house? It doesn't seem that likely, or it doesn't seem as if it's going to be as common as it may have once been. So you weigh up all of these factors and you quickly realise that nothing else comes after the 9 to 5. You just sat there working in a company, in a shop, in a business, doing relatively the same task for the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And if you're lucky, if you get good enough at this task, or if you're chosen, you might get paid a little bit more for a lot more responsibilities. Maybe I'm just being negative, maybe I'm just being lazy, maybe I should just, suck it up and be happy with it. But guys, knowledge is power and awareness is key. In today's market, there are so many different options. Be it running a business, be it running a business and working a job, be it building a brand, anything it could be. But you quickly realise in today's world that the 9 to 5 is not what it may have once been. And at the end of it, you don't really get anything. You might get enough money to retire on if you're lucky. If you're not, you won't. So, what is the real reward there? And here's the thing, because a lot of my younger people, middle-aged people, and even some older people, they understand this, they really do. And then they continue to go down that path. This is the thing, we're lucky in one sense. On the one hand, we can look at the high cost of living, we can look at all of these other issues that we've got in today's modern world, and they are all relative, they are all relevant, and they are all true. But there are certain advantages of today's modern society that we should also acknowledge. You know, the internet can create new streams of income. It's created millionaires that wouldn't have ever existed, you know, even 20 years ago. It can create the ability to move around the world more easily due to interconnection and understanding as to what you're getting yourself into, and also because of income flexibility. You know, one of the biggest things that people oppose when I say about moving abroad is, how are you going to make money? Well, we have the internet today, right? So all of these different windows are opening. But one thing that is becoming more and more apparent to me, at least, and again, maybe I should just get on with it. Maybe I'm just complaining. Maybe I'm going about things all the wrong way. But one thing that is becoming apparent, if you ask me, is the fact that as time goes on, we're seeing how the 9-to-5 is becoming less and less rewarding, and ultimately, with a lot of these companies, they'll drop you at the drop of a hat, right? They will fire you, they will get rid of you. They don't care. They will happily see the back of you and not be bothered. This is even more important context, because not only do you not get anything, and a lot of these businesses you can get to an age where you simply get laid off because it's more affordable to hire a graduate, an intern, or simply someone who's going to not have the experience and can't command the same salary. There is no reward for most people at the end of the 9-to-5. And if you didn't show up to work one day and you were dead or anything, your company may not even check on you. Depends where you work, right? But a lot of companies, even if they did check on you, your role would be filled within a week, maybe 2 at best. Whether that matters or not is up for a debate. It's an opinion, but it is something true, and it is something that I wanted to speak about here. There's no end to corporate life, and there's no magical rainbow at the end of it where all of the promises come true. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section, but I do think as time gets on, and as we have more and more access to income potential from the internet and other sources, we have to ask these questions at the very least. We have to ask them, and we have to think about the reality of the modern world that we live in. Because things have changed, things are changing, and whilst doors are closing, new ones are opening all the time. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments, guys. Thank you so much for your time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.